In Ottawa, there was a peaceful gathering of motorcyclists and veterans. No charges there, no violence there, but here's how the Ottawa police were ginning up fear and hate from the very beginning. They had a picture of motorcyclists, and as you know, people who drive motorcycles often wear leather jackets, knee pads, gloves in case they fall. That way their body isn't torn up by the road, but their protective gear is. They wear leather chaps if they're old school, or they wear other protection. But here's what the Ottawa police said about motorcyclists wearing motorcycle wear. They said, "We are seeing freedom supporters wearing protective gear. We are reminding everyone to remain lawful, respectful, and follow police direction." Okay, you're wearing protective gear. That's an implication that it's like somehow body armor or something for a battle against police. It's a smear. It's spin. I would like to take this opportunity to remind the Ottawa police to stay lawful and respectful. And you know what? I don't think it's up to the police to give direction on politics and peaceful protesters at all. The Ottawa police is out of control. But of course, this did not offend the usual types who are offended by police. It's been a bit of an inversion. The same people who are against carding and heavy-handed police brutality in the best of times, well, in these worst of times, they lust for it. Here's how CTV, really a charter member of the media party, described the peaceful protests in Ottawa. They didn't have much to say about the Antifa rioters, but here's what they said about Ottawa. They said, "Current view. It's been a full hour of speakers, lots of freedom chants heard around this morning. Again, the decision to get or not get vaccinated is a choice. Most masking and other COVID restrictions have been lifted or eased. Rolling Thunder, Ottawa." Did you catch that? Freedom. Choice. I like that part. Is it a choice if you're told you'll be fired if you don't get the jab, as millions of Canadians were told? Right now, to this day, you can't get on an airplane or a train if you're unvaxxed. In Quebec, they actually still have the masking rule. That's CTV showing their cards there. My only question is that their natural stance because they despise populists and they love government control, or were they one of these paid influencers getting the tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars sloshed around by Justin Trudeau? That was CTV. Here's David Akin with his comments. He says in a tweet, "Side by side just now in my Twitter feed, there are freedom fighters, and then there are, well, guy who insists on riding his bike around Parliament Hill, and it's Vladimir Zelensky, and of course, the man on the street being carted by police." I think that's David Akin's way of saying, if you are not the most important thing in the world, which David Akin decides is a country far away called Ukraine, you have no right to petition your democratic government. And you're no freedom fighter if you want to fly unvaxxed, if you want your civil liberties in Canada. Don't complain about civil liberties in Canada. It could be worse in Ukraine, I think is the argument. Ukraine is not particularly a place with strong civil liberties. I don't really know what David Akin means by that. I think he's saying is, why don't you talk about what I care about, which is Ukraine, instead of what you care about, which is your civil liberties here in Canada. Have you ever seen David Akin or any of these other reporters tell any other protester in the world, how dare you protest for global warming or for whatever the cause of the day is, while a country around the world has a crisis? How dare you campaign for global warming here in Canada while in China they're putting Uyghur Muslims in a concentration camp? How dare you campaign for Black Lives Matter in Canada? By the way, we never had slavery or the Civil War over slavery like they did in America. We were the destination of the Underground Railroad. How dare you have an American-directed Black Lives Matter protest here when people are starving in Africa? It makes no sense. It's a logical non sequitur. I've never seen it applied by these journalists except for to conservatives who are protesting for the first time in memory. Here's another reporter from CTV who was at the War Memorial and was quite dismissive. She said, "Some kind of priest is speaking on the steps of the War Memorial now. He called on God to turn the hearts of abusers who propagate dishonest media, such as the CBC. Then he said to bless the efforts of independent journalists like Rebel News and True North Center. Well, first of all, I'm glad he did. Thank you for that. We can use all the help we can get. It is true that CBC is a major source of disinformation. And I'm glad that that priest or whoever CTV was calling some priest said so. I mean, I'm not just referring to their kooky conspiracy theories like that Vladimir Putin organized the truckers, but so many of the reports about the arson hoax or the violence hoax, all the hoaxes that were used as a pretext for bringing the Emergencies Act, they were all published by the CBC. So I think that priest or whoever the CTV is mocking is actually right. The CBC does need help. Now, everywhere these journalists go these days, they are confronted by people who are unhappy with the authoritarian path we're on, whether it's government censorship or lockdownism. And the media are regarded as the enemy, at least by populist conservatives who are concerned about freedom. And that's because in the past, reporters used to care about freedom too, but now they've all chosen to go for the government, the security of the government bailout. So they've sold their freedom for a government paycheck, and people notice that. So there is this criticism of government journalists, and I would call CTV a government journalist even though they're not owned like the CBC is, because they get so many grants and regulatory favors from the state. So all these journalists are reacting to being scoffed at or criticized by the public, and they only mock. I wonder if they ever engage in some sort of self-reflection. That was an excerpt from my daily TV-style show called The Ezra Levant Show. Each weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest. I read some fan mail or hate mail, depends on which I like more. And we end with a video of the day. You can get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.